I was 23 when I handed over the final mortgage payment. It was a rainy Tuesday, and the paper check had my name on it in blue ink, signed with a trembling hand that had worked 3 jobs and gone without vacations, new clothes, or a working heater in winter. I remember holding it out to Dad like it was a diploma. "Last one," I said, smiling. "The house is finally yours." He didn't look up from the TV. "Good," he muttered. "Make sure the receipt goes in the drawer." "That drawer." "The same one Mom used to keep coupons in before she passed." I tucked the receipt inside, next to a used birthday card and an expired gift card. They didn't say thank you. Not that night. Not that week. But I told myself it didn't matter. I'd been helping them since I was 19. I wasn't looking for applause. Just a place to belong. A sense that I mattered. That maybe, if I could keep giving, keep proving myself, I'd finally be something other than the quiet girl they forgot to pick up from school that one time. Or the one they called our good helper, while fawning over Elise, my younger sister, the golden one. Elise had always been theirs. Blonde, hair that curled naturally, laughed like bells. She had recital videos, handwritten birthday notes, her own bedroom door with fairy lights. I had a twin mattress in the laundry room until I was 17. But I was useful. I cooked. I paid bills. I covered the car note when Dad's hours got cut. I said nothing when they borrowed from the college fund, mine, to help Elise study abroad in Spain. "It's family," Mom would say back then. "Family helps each other." Except I noticed no one ever helped me. The shift came one afternoon in late spring, a month after the mortgage was paid. I was cleaning out the garage. Mom's old boxes still sat there untouched, when I found a file labeled Emergency Documents. Curiosity wasn't even the reason I opened it. I was looking for the water shutoff key, but what I found instead made my breath stop. A birth certificate, mine, with 2 names I'd never seen before. No hospital listed, and a yellowed letter clipped behind it from a clinic in Louisiana, dated 2 weeks before my birthday. I sat on the cold cement floor and read it 5 times. I wasn't their daughter. Not biologically. Not legally. Adopted. Quietly. Informally. More like taken in. The letter said, "We understand the informal nature of your arrangement and trust the child will be raised in love." But there was no love. Just expectation. That night, I walked into the kitchen with the papers in my hand. Dad was at the table, peeling a potato. Elise sat next to him, scrolling on her phone. They didn't look up. "Can someone explain this?" I asked, voice even. Dad barely glanced over. "Figured you'd find that eventually." Elise didn't even blink. "Told you she'd snoop." I stood there, papers trembling in my hand, heart racing. "So it's true?" "Of course it's true," Dad said, as if I'd asked about the weather. "We're not your real parents. Never were." My stomach dropped. "And you weren't going to tell me?" "We didn't think you needed to know," he replied. "You always had a roof. That should have been enough." I stared at them. "I paid off your house." Dad didn't blink. "Exactly. So why are you making this about you?" I didn't cry that night. I packed a duffel bag. Quietly. I didn't even know where I was going yet, but I needed out of that house. When I got to the door, Elise called out behind me, "If you're going to act dramatic, at least leave the keys. The house is ours now." That stopped me cold. "Ours?" I turned. Actually, it's mine, Elise scoffed. What are you talking about? I reached into my backpack and pulled out the copy of the deed I'd had notarized, in my name. I'd paid the final 3 years alone. The refinancing was in my credit file. Their signatures were never on it. You might want to check the fine print next time you use someone, I said, voice like ice. And then I left. But it wasn't the end. It was the beginning. I didn't go far that night. I checked into a motel on the edge of town with flickering hallway lights and paper-thin walls, using what little savings I had left after that final mortgage payment. The front desk clerk didn't ask questions when I handed over my ID and a $20 bill for the deposit. That silence was the kindest thing I'd experienced all day. The room smelled faintly of bleach and sadness. I collapsed onto the creaky bed, staring at the stained ceiling tiles and trying not to scream. I wasn't crying for them. I was crying for every version of myself I'd sacrificed trying to earn love that was never mine to have. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls. 13 were from Dad, 3 from Elise, 1 from a number I didn't recognize, probably Mom's old friend who still called to gossip about town drama like I cared. The voicemails? A mix of confusion, anger, and disbelief. You can't just leave like, that. You're being ungrateful. Don't think this means you own the house. You wouldn't even have it if it weren't for us. I deleted them all. By noon, I was sitting in a quiet corner of the county records office, flipping through legal documents with shaking fingers. I'd done everything right. 3 years ago, when I took over the refinancing, I made sure I was the sole name on the deed. The bank had warned me they'd have to remove my parents' names because their credit was too low. I had nodded. Good. Perfect. Necessary. They didn't even read the paperwork I left on the kitchen table. Just signed. They thought I was helping. I was. They just didn't realize I was helping myself too. Later that afternoon, I went back to the house. Not to move in. Not yet. I stood across the street, watching the curtains twitch. Elise's car was still in the driveway. Dad's truck hadn't moved. My stomach churned. They didn't know what they'd lost. They thought I was bluffing. Thought I was still the girl who'd stay quiet. The one they could manipulate with guilt and scraps of affection. But something inside me had snapped. Or maybe, finally, it had awakened. I didn't enter through the front. I used the back key they forgot I had copied last year. They were in the kitchen. I could hear the microwave beeping and Elise whining about the internet. I stepped into the living room, quiet and deliberate, and laid down a single envelope on the coffee table. Eviction notice. 30 days. Signed, dated, legally enforceable. Then, I turned and walked out the door again. No confrontation, no yelling. Not yet. Let the paperwork speak first. I spent the next 2 weeks with a friend, Mia, who offered her couch with no questions asked. We'd gone to high school together, but lost touch during my years of disappearing into responsibility. She hugged me like she'd never forgotten who I was. You know, she said one night, passing me a cup of tea. Most people would have burned the house down. I looked at her, deadpan. I still might. We laughed. I hadn't laughed. In days. It felt foreign and healing. By week 3, Elise had started posting cryptic, self-pitying Instagram stories. Fake family is the worst. Imagine kicking your own parents out. Shameful. Money changes people, especially adopted ones. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. I had screenshots, I had receipts, I had 3 years of bank statements, notarized documents, and email threads with the loan officer who helped me do it all. Dad showed up at Mia's door one evening. I didn't invite him in. He looked older than I remembered, worn, like someone whose power was draining by the minute. "You're really doing this?" he asked, eyes searching. I stared him down. "You made it clear I was never family." He didn't deny it. He didn't apologize. "I gave you a roof for 20 years, he said. "No," I corrected. "You gave me a roof with conditions. I gave you a house, unconditionally, and you spat in my face the second it was yours." His face twisted. "You're still part of this family, whether you like it or not." I closed the door without replying, because the truth was, I never had a family. I had a debt I was too young to understand I was repaying. Back at Mia's, I opened my laptop. New folder. New email. Subject line: Notice of ownership and intent to reclaim property. It was time to reclaim more than just bricks and wood. I was taking my story back. Elise was never good at being quiet, so I wasn't surprised when her retaliation wasn't legal paperwork. It was a Facebook post, a long, dramatic, nauseating post with every trigger word carefully selected. After everything we did for her, she's not even our real sister. Now she's evicting our sick father, all because we told her the truth. So sad what money does to people. Within hours, the comments rolled in. Sympathy from her friends, former teachers, a few distant relatives who hadn't seen me since I was 15. "You don't deserve this, Elise. Some people forget where they came from. God sees everything. She'll get hers." One person messaged me directly, Aunt Marla. "Sweetheart, I saw Elise's post. Please tell me it isn't true." I didn't respond right away, because part of me didn't know what to say anymore. What was true? That I spent years of my life buying a home I never belonged in? That I was cast as the villain in a play I never auditioned for? I was tired, and the eviction clock was ticking. 2 days later, Dad filed a challenge to the deed in probate court. He claimed coercion, said he didn't understand what he was signing, that he never meant to give the house away. His attached evidence? A handwritten letter claiming emotional manipulation. The irony made me laugh out loud. He didn't know I still had the notarized video recording from the refinancing meeting, the one where he nodded, signed, and even said, "Glad you're taking this off our hands." I called the bank's legal department the next morning. They confirmed they'd send over everything, in writing, under oath. But Elise wasn't finished. She started reaching out to local reporters, the kind who write puff pieces about family feuds turned legal disasters. One of them bit. I got the email on a Thursday morning. "Hi, I'm writing a piece for the Herald on intergenerational housing conflicts and came across a story about a daughter evicting her family. Would you be open to sharing your side?" I stared at it, closed my laptop, made coffee, opened it again. Then I replied, "I'm happy to speak, but you should know. I'm not their daughter. I was just the mortgage. I attached the receipts, the deed, the screenshots of Elise's posts, and one photo, the check I wrote on that rainy Tuesday. The article went live that weekend. Headline: Not her house, not her daughter. How one. Woman bought a home. She was never meant to stay in. It went viral, not because of me, but because of a line buried halfway through, when the reporter quoted Elise. "She's not even really our family. She was just someone Mom took in. The internet did what it does best. It dragged her. So, she's adopted and paid off your house? Girl, I hope she buys the whole block and evicts you twice. Imagine being that ungrateful. Wild." Elise turned off her comments. Dad called me and hung up before it rang twice, and Aunt Marla sent another message. "I'm sorry, I had no idea. Do you want to come over for dinner sometime?" I didn't say yes, not yet. But I didn't delete it, either, because something was shifting. Not just in them, but in me. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the forgotten one. I felt seen, not loved, not forgiven, but witnessed. The final eviction hearing was in 10 days. I had the lawyer. I had the documents. I had every legal inch of that house wrapped in my name. But revenge isn't always about winning in court. Sometimes, it's watching them realize, slowly, painfully, that the person they underestimated is the one who owns the ground beneath their feet. And I wasn't done yet. I wore navy blue to the hearing. Not black. Too bitter. Not red. Too loud. Navy. Clean. Decided. The courthouse smelled like paper and panic. I sat with my lawyer, Ms. Colleen Graves, a woman with sharp eyes and a sharper voice. She had read everything. Twice. And underlined. In red. Elise and Dad arrived 10 minutes late. She wore sunglasses indoors, clutching a Starbucks like it was holy water. Dad looked thinner, like a man who finally realized the foundation was crumbling beneath him. They avoided looking at me. I didn't return the courtesy. The judge was neutral, graying, slow-speaking, careful with his words. Dad's lawyer presented their case first. It was pitiful. They argued that I pressured them into refinancing, that I manipulated them emotionally, and, the part that actually made Ms. Graves smirk, that I took advantage of their familial trust. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Do you have documentation of this manipulation?" Their lawyer faltered. "No, Your Honor, but..." "Then let's move on." My turn. Colleen stood, smooth and effortless, and handed over the folder of hell video footage of the signing, bank statements showing all payments from my personal account, screenshots of Elise's not even family posts, a notarized affidavit from the loan officer, and finally, my personal statement. 3 pages, single-spaced, titled, "The Mortgage I Mistook for Love." The judge read it. Every word. For the first time, I saw Dad squirm. Elise rolled her eyes, but neither interrupted. They knew better now. The decision came in 11 minutes. The deed stands. The eviction is valid. 30 days remain to vacate. No extensions will be granted. Dad muttered something under his breath. Elise burst into tears. Loud, performative sobs. I stood up, not to gloat, not to smile, but because I was done sitting through their theater. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. One young man shoved a mic toward me. "Is there anything you'd like to say to your family?" I looked into the lens. I hope they find peace. But not at my expense anymore. That line ended up on the front page the next day. That night, I walked through the house one last time, not to take anything, but to remember. The dent in the wall from when I slipped carrying laundry at 14. The floorboard that creaked outside Mom's old sewing room. The corner in the living room where I used to hide overdue bills. This house had never been mine in spirit, only in paper and blood, and maybe that was enough now. 30 days. They still had 30 days, but I didn't plan to wait. The locksmith came the next morning. I changed the locks, legally, and handed Elise and Dad the official move-out notice, in person, through the security camera at the front gate. They screamed, cursed. Elise threw her latte at the camera. I didn't blink. Because it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclamation. Later that night, I sat on the back patio, alone. No noise, no lies, just me and a glass of cold water. I pulled out an old notebook, the one I used to journal in as a teen, hidden under my mattress in the laundry room. Flipping to the last page, I wrote, "You were never just adopted. You were a survivor. And now, you are the landlord of your own life." And for the first time in years, I slept without guilt. The house had never been this quiet. No slamming cabinet doors, no late-night arguments over cable bills, no Elise stomping in with a new shopping bag and someone else's credit card. Just walls, and my breathing. They had 18 days left, but they were unraveling faster than time allowed. Elise started a GoFundMe. She titled it, "Wrongfully Evicted by My Sister. Help Us Stay Housed." She wrote about how she was relying on the kindness of strangers, how family betrayal is the worst kind of homelessness, and how I had tricked our dad out of his only home. In 48 hours, it raised $214. Most of the comments were sarcastic. "So your sister bought the house and you want us to pay rent now? Y'all have audacity for sale? I'll buy some." Ever thought of saying thank you to the woman who kept a roof over your head for years? She deleted it by day 3. Then came the pity parade. A former church friend of Mom's posted a photo of them all at a Sunday picnic captioned, "Please pray for Elise and Mr. Taylor. Family betrayal cuts deepest. If you've got a spare room or just kindness in your heart, reach out." It got shared around the neighborhood Facebook group, the one where people complained about missing packages and HOA fees. But something had shifted. People weren't rallying behind them like before. They were quiet, watching, curious. Some even messaged me, "If you ever need anything, I remember how hard you worked growing up. Stay strong." I had no idea it was you paying the mortgage all those years. I'm sorry. Funny how silence can flip sides. With the house back in my name, I started cleaning. Not just wiping down counters, really cleaning. Scrubbing their prints out of every room. Bagging clothes they left behind. Donating the dusty trophies Elise never earned. I found old boxes of mine tucked in the garage. A math trophy I forgot I won. An unopened letter from my high school mentor. A drawing I made of my future home. Stick figures, and a sun above a crooked roof. I sat down on the concrete floor, cradling that paper in my hands. 12 years later, I'd built that house, with sacrifice. And now I was standing in it. I had the locks changed again. A final reset. Installed a doorbell camera. Security system. Smart locks. Elise tried to break in once. Left her nail cracked on the keypad, and a "This is still ours" note shoved under the door. It rained that night. By morning, the ink had bled away. Meanwhile, I started sketching. Again, Mia, my miracle couch friend, helped me redecorate the spare room into an art studio. "You should sell these," she said, holding one of my charcoal pieces. "Call it something like Adopted by Fire or Raised by Rent." I laughed. That's awful, and kind of perfect. So I bought a domain name. I filed an LLC. I ordered business cards. It wasn't revenge. It was legacy. One afternoon, I got a call from the moving company I hired to clear out Elise and Dad's stuff on day 30. "Only a few boxes here," the man said. "And they didn't even label them. I told him to put it in storage under my name. Let them call me if they wanted it back." Let them ask. I wasn't giving anything anymore. The night before their eviction deadline, I drove past the house. Lights off, curtains open, a single chair on the lawn. The one I used to sit in when I was 10, holding a paperback I'd reread 5 times just to escape. It sat under the porch light now, abandoned. I didn't stop. I didn't need to, because they were finally leaving, and I was finally arriving. 30 days. I marked it with a gold star on the calendar pinned to the kitchen wall. The same wall where Mom used to hang chore lists I was never exempt from. But this star wasn't about obedience. It was a reminder. Closure doesn't knock. You build it, then you lock the door. I woke up before the sun. There was no anxiety, no second guessing. Just a strange, electric stillness, like the air before a thunderstorm. I made coffee. Black. No sugar. I wore jeans and a white t-shirt. No drama. No costume. I didn't need to look like someone who'd won. Because I was standing in the house they swore I didn't deserve, and it was mine. The movers arrived at 10 a.m. sharp. They carried the last of Elise's boxes, mostly cosmetics and tangled wires, out the back. No one was there to claim them. Dad didn't show. Not a text. Not a knock. Just a pile of broken pride somewhere on someone else's couch, I imagined. The locksmith came at 11:30. I watched as he drilled out the final lock they had touched. When the new handle clicked into place, it was like a pressure valve released inside my chest. It was done. I walked room to room like I was meeting each wall for the first time. The laundry room, where I'd slept on a twin mattress beside bleach bottles. The hallway, where Elise's framed school portraits used to hang. The upstairs window, where I once whispered to the moon, asking if anyone out there knew I existed. Now it all echoed, not empty. Just cleared, like a stage after the final act, and I was the one holding the curtain. Around 2 p.m., a knock came. It wasn't them. It was Aunt Marla, hair tied back, holding a casserole dish and a look of apology on her face that made my stomach twist. "I wasn't sure if you'd want to see me," she said, softly. I stepped aside. She entered like someone who understood silence. We sat at the kitchen table. She told me about things I'd never known. About how my mother, my real one, was a friend of hers, how she died young, how she'd asked the Taylors to raise me because she believed they could offer stability. "They didn't tell us," Marla said. "Not until you were already living here. And by then, you were so quiet. We didn't want to make it worse." I didn't speak for a long time. Then finally, "She had a name?" Marla nodded. "Melissa. She loved poetry, and you look like her." I blinked fast. She left an envelope on the table. Old letters, from Melissa. To me. "I think you should have these now," she said. "She wrote them before you were born. She wanted you to know who she was, even if they never let you." After she left, I opened the first one. It was dated 4 months before I was born. "If you're reading this, you made it. And you're strong. And maybe, just maybe, You're finding your own way back to yourself. I hope you get the home I wanted for you. Not just a roof, but something that holds your name like a heartbeat. Folded it carefully, slipped it into my notebook beside my LLC certificate, and wrote one line under it. It's mine now, Mom. Finally. That evening, I lit a single candle, sat on the porch, watched the streetlights flicker on like stars. No Elise, no Dad, no yelling, just me. In the quiet they never allowed. Didn't post online, didn't share a triumphant video, didn't even text Mia, because this wasn't for show. It was the kind of peace you don't announce, the kind you earn with scars, then protect with locks no one else has a key to. It started with a coat of paint. Not the metaphorical kind. Actual paint. Soft gray for the living room walls, deep forest green for the front door. I stood in the hallway barefoot, a paintbrush in one hand, and a playlist humming through the speaker. The house didn't feel like theirs anymore. Didn't smell like their cologne. Didn't echo with Elise's tantrums or Dad's passive silence. Every color I chose felt like reclaiming a syllable of my own name. I hung my first framed drawing in what used to be Elise's bedroom. She'd covered the walls in magazine clippings and fairy lights. Now it was stripped, primed, and transformed into my studio. Clean, sparse, flooded with natural light. On the wall, a sketch of a girl standing outside a crooked house, holding a set of keys too big for her hands. I titled it, Age 10, Ready. Adopted by Fire, the website, launched the following. Monday. Mia helped with the layout. Her roommate did the photos, and I posted a series of illustrations about growing up in silence. Each one had a short caption. Some were funny, others just hurt. The traffic exploded. People started messaging me. Your art made me feel less invisible. This is my childhood in black ink. How did you survive? Please don't. Stop. I didn't realize healing could be so public, or that revenge didn't always mean watching someone fall. Sometimes it meant watching yourself rise. The letters from my birth mother became a ritual. One per night. Always at 9 p.m., always on the same old couch. She wrote about poetry and hope and how scared she was to give me up. But she believed I'd find a way to forgive the world. She had a favorite line she repeated across 3 different letters. Don't. Let the silence convince you you're unloved. It just means you're in the space between storms. Then came the knock. I didn't answer at first. It was 3 weeks since eviction. I assumed it was a neighbor. But then I looked through the peephole. Elise, hair tied back. No makeup. Gray hoodie. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. I almost didn't open the door. But I did. Only because I knew I wouldn't let her in. I'm not here to fight, she said quickly. Arms folded. Eyes darting. I said nothing. She rocked on her heels. I just wanted to see if you were really going through with it. It's done, I said. You knew that. She looked away. Dad's staying at Aunt Helen's. I'm sleeping in my friend's guest room. It's temporary. There was a pause. Then, do you feel better now? I let the words settle between us like ash. Do you? I asked. She looked up. Her mouth opened. Maybe to lie. Maybe to blame. But she stopped herself. Instead, she said something I didn't expect. You really loved us, didn't you? blinked. "I still do," I replied. "Just not at the expense of myself anymore." She nodded once, then left. No apology, no reconciliation, just distance. And for once, I didn't chase her. That night, I opened the last letter. It was the shortest. "Maybe the house won't remember me, but I hope you do. I hope you let it love you. Walls are just walls until someone forgives them." I folded it neatly, lit a small candle, watched the wax melt down to nothing, and for the first time, I didn't cry. I just breathed and began planning the future. The night of the art show arrived with quiet skies. No thunder, no storm, just stillness, the kind of peace I used to think was for other people. The house was glowing, room by room, lit with paper lanterns and warm lamps. The scent of eucalyptus drifted from the living room diffuser. Soft music played. Laughter echoed. People wandered from sketch to sketch, some smiling, others quiet, hands on their hearts. Each piece was a fragment of a memory. A mattress in a laundry room, a girl holding up a check with trembling hands, a family dinner with one chair always missing, and in the center of it all, framed in glass and lit by a single spotlight, was the original deed to the house. Beneath it, in small lettering, "She didn't steal it. She paid for it, in full." I saw Aunt Marla near the kitchen, chatting with a woman I didn't recognize. She waved me over. "This is Claire," she said. "She went to high school with your mother." Claire smiled gently. "You have her eyes." We stood in silence for a moment. "She used to talk about naming you River," Claire said, "because you were always moving, even before you were born." I laughed softly. She'd be proud to know I finally stopped running. The old laundry room, now transformed into a quiet reading nook, held only one framed drawing, a young girl curled on a twin mattress, staring at the ceiling. Above it, "This is where I began, not where I stayed." A guest stopped there, longer than the rest. She looked around, then leaned in and whispered, "I had a room like this too." We didn't need to say more. Near the end of the night, Mia hugged me so tight I thought my ribs might crack. "Do you realize what you did?" she whispered. "You turned the ugliest thing they gave you into something beautiful." I smiled. "No. I just gave it a name." The final guest left a little after 11. The lights dimmed. The house fell quiet again, but not empty. Never empty. Wandered through each room in my socks, wineglass in hand, fingertips trailing across door frames that once slammed in my face. The house didn't feel haunted anymore. It felt whole. Not because they were gone, but because I had finally filled it with myself. At midnight, I returned to my studio. One last sketch waited. I drew a simple image, a front door, a set of keys, and beneath it, a single word, handwritten in black ink, mine.